has proven she has the strength to make hard choices. Yet what of you?
What's up guys, Stevie here with Lucky Crit. Today we're going to be talking about the Japanese introduction trailer for Fire Emblem Echoes, which reveals even more new information about the game. From this point on in the series, it's very likely that these episodes will contain more and more spoilers, considering the stuff being revealed in these recent videos and leaks continue to be from further and further in the game. If you want to remain unspoiled for Fire Emblem Echoes, or are just wondering if it's something that you should pick up, you can check out the earlier episodes in this series by clicking here. For those of you that are not adverse to some minor spoilers and just want the hype train to continue, there will also be a point later in this video with another spoiler warning for some even more intense stuff. But if you're okay with some minor spoilers, you can stick around for this part. The new Japanese introduction trailer begins discussing the basics of Fire Emblem Echoes, which we already know. Alm attacks the soldier again, like in the original footage, but this time his animation is different, so it's nice to see variations in the attack animations, like with Valbar doing his shield bash that we saw previously. Then we get to see our first look at Gray as a mercenary. There's also a new chapter map that seems to feature Burkett as the boss, alongside his ally Fernand. Burkett looks to be a paladin, and Fernand is a cavalier. We can then see Clive attacking with his steel lance, and then we finally get our first look at his sister, Claire, the Pegasus Knight we've discussed in previous episodes. Next we can see Leon attacking some brigands, but if we look really closely, there's a battle skill command in the menu before he attacks, so it seems this is how you will activate the skills learned off of your unit's weapons. We also take our first look at Silk the Cleric healing Alm. The Recover spell also now has 8 might versus 0 in the original Gaiden, but in Gaiden, Recover healed the same as the user's attack, so it's possible that now it runs off a percentage of attack instead, like in recent games. A bunch of new chapter maps are showcased here, including one where Alm and company are entering a castle with archers up above on castle walls. The announcer then discusses the importance of terrain in Echoes, which will give your units, and enemy units, much needed advantages in combat. In Gaiden, only 2 monster types could utilize terrain, the zombies and the skeletons, and from this shot, it seems that will remain unchanged in Echoes. While the announcer is discussing terrain advantages and healing tiles, we can see Burkett and Fernand again, this time as a Gold Knight and a Paladin respectively, so this is from later on in the game. Perhaps this is the chapter that ensues directly after the cutscene we've seen of Alm leading the Deliverance. We can then see Saber leveling up, and though it's still not a lot of evidence, it does seem to continue to showcase the trend that characters in Echoes have had their growth rates increased from Gaiden. Next we get our first in-game look at how the participation experience system will work at the end of a battle, with all units receiving some EXP. In the next clip, Lucas's class changed from a soldier to a knight. Like we discussed briefly in a previous episode, units don't always promote at the same level in Gaiden and Echoes, so there's a nice battle prompt to let you know when they're ready, and they will also have a Mila statue next to their name on the status screen. The announcer then discusses villagers having the ability to change between several classes, like we've discussed before. We get to see footage of Cliff in battle as each of these classes. And now we can finally see what Catria looks like in Echoes. Her redesign looks great. She's equipped with her own steel lance and looks to be learning some abilities from it too, likely the same ones that Clive has been working on. Tapping the weapon in the center of the screen will open up its sub-menu. We can see that Valbar's dried meat item restores 20 HP if used, or can be used to recover a small amount of fatigue. Next, we're treated to a clip of what the item equip interface will look like, where we can see our units on the left and the potential items we can give them. Units in Echoes will only be able to equip one item, and if they have nothing equipped, they will simply attack with a generic weapon. We can see a new item here that May has equipped, a mana herb. In the next clip, we finally get video proof that units will learn weapon skills upon ranking up their weapons. Alm gains one called Thunderclap from his Levin sword, Clive learns Gale Lance from his Steel Lance, and then we get to see what some of these skills will look like, with Kamui, Valbar, and Lucas utilizing them in battle. Kamui seems to be promoted to a Myrmidon here, and uses the skill Crosswise. Valbar also looks to have been promoted to what likely could be the Baron class, a 3rd tier class, and uses the skill Horse-Burying Strike, likely an attack effective against Cavaliers. Lucas is also promoted here, and is using a skill called Arc Ballista. While the announcer is discussing the skills and attributes of Saber and May, we can see what it will look like to max out an equipped item, like May's Iron Shield, and she also has the Shove ability from the shield as well. So it seems that even though actual equipable skills from games like Awakening and Fates won't be present in Echoes, we are getting some of them back anyway from these equipable weapons. Good job, Intelligence Systems. The Iron Shield provides a +4 defense and -1 speed modifier, so it seems even higher end shields will reduce speed as well. Saber has the skills Power of Abundance and Earth's Blessing from the Golden Dagger. Power of Abundance provides a hit rate of plus 10 and absorbs HP, so even though the dagger isn't a very powerful weapon, it will feature some useful skills. We then get to see a few more examples of these abilities, with Leon raining down arrows upon his enemy with trapping arrows, and Katria swooping in for the kill with the skill Hit and Run. Next we can see an enemy we haven't seen before, a mummy-looking Entombed Terror, reminiscent of those from Fire Emblem Awakening. Entombed always awarded a good chunk of EXP, and that also seems to be the case here as well. In the next part of this video, we'll be discussing some late-game ally units, classes, and enemy types, so if you want to remain unspoiled, please jump to the time present on screen now. We're then shown some more footage of the village exploration, this time featuring two new characters we haven't seen yet, possibly Forsyth and Python. And we also get to see an example of talking to Clive as well as random villagers. There's also another character shown here, which seems to be Atlas, the character that Celica can recruit along her journey that we first saw in the last episode. We then get some more shots of dungeon exploration and fighting items like the golden coin or gold mark, and we can also see the player finding the rusty sword from town exploration. Rusty swords weren't in Gaiden, and they don't sound particularly powerful, so perhaps this is a weapon that has to do with forging. Next we can see a mercenary character named Jesse from Celica's route dying, and we're shown the difference in dialogue between classic and casual modes, with units actually dying and units that will return later. This is pretty similar to previous Fire Emblem games. There's also a new chapter map here, with a bunch of enemies converging on a single bridge. Perhaps this is once again the chapter of the battle between the Deliverance versus the Regalian forces. Some of the new characters are present in Alm's army here, like Python and Forsyth, but we'll get another look at them later. We also get to see what Clive looks like as a paladin, dying in a river. At long last, we can finally see exactly what Mila's Turnwheel will look like in action, and it looks awesome. It looks like the number in the bottom right does in fact appear to be the number of turns you can rewind back, 3 being the usual amount that we've seen. When the Turnwheel is used, you actually get to physically see units undoing their actions. Very cool. Next we get to see Alm's party from very far into the game. Gray is a Myrmidon here, an upgraded mercenary. Alm has been promoted to a hero, like on the pins we saw with the limited edition version of the game. Tobin is a Bow Knight, a promoted sniper. Claire is a Falco Knight. Faye a Paladin. Lucas is still a Knight, alongside Matilda the Paladin, and what looks to be Python the Bow Knight to the right. In the next row, there's Luthier the Mage. Cliff looks to be a Sage. Silk is potentially the Saint class, the promoted version of the Cleric. Clive is a Paladin, and Tatiana also seems to be a Saint. Lastly, there's Delthea the Mage and Forsyth the Knight. This is all consistent with Alm's mid-Chapter 4 party. In the next part of the trailer, we get to see Alm versus Burkett, with Alm clutching his arm afterwards. Now we get our first look at Gray as a Myrmidon here, very briefly. There's also a clip a little bit after this where he dodges an attack from a sorcerer. It also looks like the enemy units may have the ability to move around on the world map, unless this is part of the game's story and a forced event where an enemy confronts Alm. Next we're shown what Myson's in-game portrait will look like. The next shot looks to be a late-game chapter against some terrors and enemy units. We can see a summoner summoning what appear to be stone gargoyles, and we can also see an enemy witch boss, which we've later discovered is Nui Baba from Gaiden. Nui Baba was a boss in Chapter 4 of Alm's story, whose gender was originally unspecified, but has now been revealed to be female. Nui Baba used the Medusa spell, so I guess it makes sense. We've also got some enemy dread fighters here to the left and to the right. This chapter looks pretty much the same as it was in Gaiden. Next up, we've got the character portrait of Judah, the Duma worshipper we talked about in a previous episode. He's looking even creepier this time around. There's a brief CG of Celica and what appears to be a new character, telling Celica to run if she values her life, so it's potentially a new character you may get along her journey. Fans have been speculating about his appearance, thinking that perhaps he's a surviving member of the Zophian royal family. We can also see Saber here as a dread fighter, battling an enemy that could be a Majin, a demonic version of the Baron class. We're then briefly shown examples of the 2 different Alm and Celica amiibo dungeons that we talked about last time. Alm's is the War God's Trial, and Celica's is the Goddess's Trial. The announcer then discusses further amiibo functionality, with the amiibo option appearing in battle after scanning an amiibo with the Mila's gear on the world map. At an HP cost of 10, Alm can summon an illusory ally to assist him in battle. Like we said last time, any amiibo will work, but they will summon generic units, while the specific Fire Emblem amiibo characters will summon their character. We're then shown Ike's illusory hero getting a lucky crit, then disappearing. We've also got a new description for the official guidebook for Fire Emblem Echoes, which reveals a few new in-game features, the biggest of which is a snippet about the inclusion of a post-game Chapter 6. The description reads, In the system section, we explain in detail all the basic mechanics necessary to play the game, such as the alternating 2 main characters, class growth, flow of battle, dungeon exploration, village and street-based conversations, etc. The core section of this book, the tactics section, covers chapters 1 to 5, as well as the new chapter 6 added after the ending, and includes detailed battle maps with strategies geared for normal mode play. Of course, hard mode tips will be provided. Also included are all the items obtained from base and village events, as well as dungeon maps. In addition, in the data section, there is a complete overage of units, skills, equipment, forging, provisions, metals, renown, and so forth. It's a comprehensive guidebook that provides full assistance to those journeying through Valentia. So within Fire Emblem Echoes, there will also be medals and a renown system, which could potentially be similar to the renown system of Fire Emblem Awakening. We also know that base conversations will be making a return as well, which should be similar to how they were in New Mystery of the Emblem. That's going to wrap up this episode, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, be sure to comment Echoes in the comment section down below, and let me know what you think about what we talked about today. Slash the thumbs up if you learned anything new, and also get subscribed if you haven't already, to get our Nintendo, retro, and tech content straight to your YouTube homepage. For any updates that don't make it into episodes or news revealed on the fly, be sure to follow us on Twitter at LuckyCritGaming. And I'll see you guys next time.